Okay, welcome to this lecture on general scaling theory. So in this lecture, we are gradually coming towards the culmination of all the theory, whatever we learned in this course until now. And the main focus of this one is basically to find out the fundamental scaling theory, which you probably know a little about in your IC fabrication, but we are going to understand the scaling theory from a mathematical perspective. So the first thing is that uh, if we want to improve the performance of the device, all of you are aware of the Dennard's law, Moore's law, and all that. I'm not going into those aspects. What I will rather deal with is what happens when, or rather, what we will rather try to answer the question like if we are just making this device smaller, okay, like this, then how are the various parameters of the device change? How does the various parameters of the device respond to the scaling? So there are two fundamental assumptions in the scaling theory. The first one is that the dimensions will scale by a factor of k. It's actually the represented by the Greek letter kappa, but just to keep it simple, let me just call it k itself. So when k is greater than 1, that means clearly we can understand that dimension scaling means the dimension is going to be smaller. So that means the scaling factor k, which is always defined, which is as greater than 1 for downscaling. So L dash becomes equal to L by k, where L is any parameter. It can be x, y, z, or channel length, anything. Okay, so any dimension will scale like this. L dash is equal to L by k. Similarly, we have got second assumption that the electric fields scale by a factor of alpha, which is greater than 1. So clearly, if you are making this device smaller, what happens? The distance between the terminals and everything will essentially be reduced, right? So if the distance is reduced, it simply means that the fields will increase, correct? And alpha is again defined greater than 1. So this is one factor which you have to always keep in mind, that in the generalized scaling theory, the scaling theory proper, so to speak, that will always have the scaling factors greater than 1. Okay, so f dash is greater than f, L dash is less than L. So if L dash, so the prime quantities are essentially referring to the scaled quantities. Okay, so if L dash is less than L, then k has to be greater than 1 because k is in the denominator. And if f dash is greater than capital F, then alpha has to be greater than 1. So that is how field scales. So now we will understand uh, through the modeling aspect, physics-based modeling approach, like how does, let us say, the voltage scale in this aspect. So remember that the potentials or the voltages, I mean, voltage potential, they're interchangeably used over here. So the potential phi dash will be given by the dimension multiplied by the field, correct? Now the field scale, so these are all prime numbers. So f dash, x dash. So if the field scales by alpha into f, so there is one alpha here. X dash scales by x by k. So there is an alpha by k in as a factor into f into x. So clearly field into distance is again the original unscaled potential. So that means we are going to have a factor of alpha by k. So that means what we can say is that potential scales by alpha by k. This is the scaling factor for the potentials. Now comes a very interesting part. Okay, we have learned for the dimensions, field, and the potential. Why do we require scaling theory as such? So what we can say is that fine, I'm essentially going to reduce the dimension of the device so that in the same chip area we can put in more number of devices, and essentially we will have increased number of functionalities in the chip, and of course the performance and everything will be improved. Very good, so that's fine. But why is there necessity for a scaling theory per se? So Can anybody answer that? What is the objective of the scaling theory? Scaling is essential. Why is the scaling theory important?
To include more number of functionality and more number of transistors in a same
Again,
size.
Ashok, you haven't listened to it. So scaling is important. I'm speaking about scaling theory. The scaling theory, I mean, as Ashok has said, and when I told before Ashok, is that it is very good. I will just reduce the dimensions. So instead of 1 micrometer, if I can make a device with 1 nanometer, it's excellent, right? 1 nanometer is too much. We haven't reached that. So 10 nanometers, let us say. So that means we are essentially gaining a huge improvement in terms of the number of devices. Okay. But why is there, I mean, for example, I mean, what I'm trying to discuss is why a theory as such? It's not scaling. Like what I'm suggesting is that I'm not asking why scaling is important. My question is why a generalized scaling theory or the model for scaling is important.
The behavior of a device changes when it scales down.
Okay. Then, of course, it will change. Devices are becoming smaller. So what is the problem with that?
To keep the characteristics of the device constant.
Yes, excellent. That is the point. So what we are trying to tell is that when we are scaling, as we will soon notice that one of you rightly said, the characteristics of the device will change. I mean, the device properties, the fields, and many things will change, obviously, if you are changing the device dimensions. But what we are essentially looking for, the characteristics should be acceptable to us. The device reliability should be acceptable to us. The performance of the device should be acceptable to us. Preferably, it should improve. Okay, so if we say that we will simply change the device dimension from 1 micron to 10 nanometer, okay, the device is never going to work. We have to see that in addition to making from 1 micron to 10 nanometer, what are the other changes in the device we have to incorporate such that the 10 nanometer device should work as good as, at least as good as 1 micrometer, or preferably this 10 nanometer device should perform better than 1 micrometer device. Okay, because by default, if you simply change the device dimension, this device is going to be deteriorated. Its performance will be bad, as we have discussed in now many of the previous lectures. So scale device performances are actually worse than the long channel MOSFETs. But still short channel MOSFET is of this scaling theory. So in the scaling theory, we will learn that if you want to scale the device, we have to do certain other changes inside the device as well. And if we can do that, then only then the scale device will perform better than the long channel device. Just by downscaling the device dimension will not help us. So the first thing that comes into our mind is the Poisson's equation. So that means our objective is to ensure that the Poisson's equation, which determines the electrostatics of the device, remember for diode, MOSFETs, we have all been doing that Poisson's equation. So Poisson equation, if I want to apply to this 10 nanometer device, the solution of the Poisson equation should be the same as the solution of the Poisson equation for the 1 micrometer device. Okay, so that is our perspective. So that is what the scaling theory is about. So the generalized scaling theory simply defines the mathematical framework or mathematical models for each of the parameters of the device, which should scale when the device scales. Okay, for the different parameters. Aap scaling bole to, I mean, whenever we speak about or think about scaling, we usually, I mean, that comes into our mind is basically that the dimension of the device simply changes. Okay, but that's not going to be true. All right, so here is the Poisson equation. Here again, I have put dash in every place where this is also a dash, okay, where we need to, I mean, this dash is indicating the scaled quantities for the 10 nanometer device. Okay, so this is the Poisson equation for the 10 nanometer device, the scaled one, short channel device. So in the short channel device, now notice that phi dash we have already seen that it will scale by alpha by kappa or alpha by k. So let us put alpha by k outside, and here is one x dash uska square. So that means there will be one k square in the numerator. Similarly, y scales with a factor of 1 upon k. So this k will come in the numerator. So k square and k square and k will cancel, and you are left with alpha into k, this alpha into k, this is equal to q n dash by epsilon si. Now this is the Poisson equation, left hand side of the Poisson equation for scaled device before you have scaled it, right? So what we will do is this alpha k into, instead of this one, I will just write the right hand side of the original Poisson equation before scaling. So what it gives us, again, these will cancel out. Na dash is equal to alpha k into Na. So this is how the doping scales. Okay, so what do we realize out here is, if the field scales by alpha and if the dimension scale by 1 by k, then the doping scales by alpha into k. We will see the serious implication of this towards the end of this class. Okay, so just keep this model in the mind. So this is the modeling, mathematical modeling of the doping scaling factor. Okay, now we will come to COX. Clearly, what is COX? Epsilon Si by TOX. Now TOX is again a dimension, right? So that is going to scale by 1 upon k. So k is above. So basically what we understand, the capacitance per unit area. Remember, this is only the oxide capacitance per unit area, but we are essentially looking for, in general, all the capacitances per unit area. Remember, this is by dimension. So that will scale as k itself. On the contrary, the absolute capacitance or the terminal capacitance, as you can see here, that will also area factor, right? Usually this area, what is that? That is W into L. Correct. So we can essentially put here W into L also. Okay. So I'll put prime prime. Okay. So this square and this k will cancel because there is a d dash. This d dash or d can essentially be, let us say, I mean, oxide thickness or anything or something like that. Okay. So you are left with 1 upon k into CGS. So the conclusion is that simply that the terminal capacitances, or that is the absolute capacitance, here it was capacitance per unit area, the absolute capacitance in farads will be equal to CGS divided by k. Notice it is into k, this is divided by k. Okay, so what does it imply? That means when you are scaling the device, okay, now let us understand this. When you are scaling the device, remember k is always greater than 1 and alpha is greater than 1. So what do we get it here? So when k increases, okay, we will look into those towards the end of this lecture. Now we will come to the other model. When we look into the potential profile inside the MOS capacitor or the MOSFET, whatever you can say. So what we understand, this is a familiar picture to all of you by now. So the P infinity, that is y equal to infinity here. Okay. So this is your y equal to infinity. So P infinity is equal to Ni e to the power of phi f by phi t. All right. That is something which we all know. So P infinity is equal to Na. That is the doping concentration. Correct. Now, what is the Py? Y is some arbitrary place over here. Py will be equal to Ni e to the power of what is this? Ei minus Ef. Ei minus Ef is simply this minus this, right? These 2 points. So what does it imply? That will be phi f minus phi divided by phi t. This is the same approach which we have done quite a number of times by now. So Ni e to the power of phi f by phi t here is equal to Na. So I have written that Na is equal to e to the power of minus phi by phi t. Cool. No issues with that. So how about Ny? Notice Ny will be equal to Ni square by Py. So Ni square by Na, this e to the power of minus phi f by phi t in the denominator goes to the numerator, so it becomes e to the power of phi by phi t. Now, notice from this relation here, what we understand is Ni is equal to Na e to the power of this phi f by phi t. If I bring it to the right hand side, it becomes e to the power of minus phi f by phi t, which I put here in place of this Ni square. And you are left with Na e to the power of phi minus 2 phi f. This 2 is coming because it is Ni square. Understood? Now, I'm interested to find out the free carrier concentration on the surface. Okay? So n dash 0, I can call it ns as well. But anyways, n dash 0 doesn't matter. Will be equal to, is equal to 0 means at the surface, right? Now here Na, because it is the scaled version, e to the power of phi s becomes the scaled version, phi s dash. Phi f becomes the scaled version, phi f dash. Okay. Now notice here that Na dash scales as alpha k into Na. That's exactly what we have seen earlier. So instead of Na dash, I am just simply writing alpha k into Na. Then exponential of phi s dash scales as, again, remember, it's a potential. So alpha by k. So I'll put alpha by k, and phi f is also a potential, so alpha by k outside. However, if you notice, it is exponential term of this. So alpha by k will roughly be a very small deviation with its original one. So it's approximately equal to alpha into k into n0. So how the surface inversion concentration varies. Okay. Now, if you notice carefully that this is also scaling by alpha k, and the doping concentration also scales by alpha k. So that means the free carrier concentration scales by alpha k. Because the doping is essentially referring to the free carrier concentration, provided you are using the shallow dopants. Okay. Very good. Now we will look into the inversion charge. Now the master equation, again, all of you are aware of it. So QSI is equal to this whole factor, out of which the right hand side factor here is essentially the inversion charge, right? So this Q inversion is equal to minus of this whole thing, root over twice epsilon SI Q Na dash phi t. Na dash because it is a scaled one. And out of this factor in the strong inversion region, phi s dash minus 2 phi f is what will suffice. Right? And there is a to the power half, so I have put it underneath the root. Now notice Na dash e to the power of phi s dash minus 2 phi f by phi t, here also will be a dash. Okay. What is that? That is nothing other than n dash 0. Okay, this relation. So I'll just put it here. So you are left with minus root over twice epsilon SI Q phi t n dash 0. Now n dash 0 scales as alpha k. So here we will be getting root over alpha k into Q inversion. Therefore, the inversion charge will scale by a factor of root over alpha into k. Okay. Now, the last one for today's device related scaling factor is that drift velocity will be equal to mu n f dash. Okay. Now, when is this mu n into f come into the picture? Only when the field is less than the critical field. And the drift velocity will be equal to mu n into f as long as the field is less than the critical field. Remember that drift velocity curve. Okay, this is your VDR sat, saturation drift velocity. This is the point, we will call it as the F critical. This is the point, is the field. Correct? We have done that in more details in our previous lectures. Okay, so VDR sat is equal to mu n into the field, but that is as long as the field is less than field. So that is under low field application. So low field application means the drift velocity for long channel MOSFETs. So for long channel devices, this is true. So that is the ohmic region. Okay. So f dash का scaling factor क्या था? Alpha into f. Correct? That was the basic premise of the generalized scaling theory. So if it is alpha into f, I'll just put f dash is equal to alpha into f. So that means VDR dash. So the drift velocity in a scaled device is equal to alpha into the drift velocity of an unscaled device. Cool. Then what is the VDR sat? VDR sat is equal to mu n into the critical field, because beyond the FCR, beyond the critical field, what we observe is that the drift velocity simply saturates. Okay, so VDR is equal to VDR sat. So VDR does not scale in nanometer scale MOS transistors. Okay, so now we have done for many different device parameters. We are going to look into it with more details in the next lecture, where we will essentially go into the device performance and from a circuit performance perspective. So these are only on the device. So this is like generalized theory 1. Okay, scaling theory 1, part 1. All right, so now what we will do is we will make a table of all the parameters whichever we have already seen that. Okay. Okay, so here what we will do is yeah, just a second. Yeah. Hello. Yes. So now here what we are going to do is we are just going to write down the various scaling factors. So the first one was the dimensions. So for the dimensions, what we observe is for any kind of length associated with the device, channel length basically, W is the weight, TOX is the oxide thickness. Okay. Then let us say, okay, what is the unit for it? Yeah, I'll put the units. The unit is nanometers, let us say. Usually in the field, in the domain of nanometers, in the order of nanometers. So what was the scaling factor? 1 upon K, right? So Okay, what I want you to do is you should respond. Okay, now for the constant field scaling, this is going to be a very good eye opener for many of you. If I want to ensure that the field remains constant, okay, the field remains constant inside both of these devices. Remember, we have seen that the electric fields will scale by a factor of alpha greater than 1. Correct. Somehow, if we can maintain that the fields remain constant, then what we have to ensure for the constant field scaling, this alpha should be equal to 1. Yes or no? Just a second. This alpha will be equal to 1. Okay. Whereas when we are speaking about this constant voltage scaling, that is another approach. Then the potentials should remain invariant when we are scaling the device. Okay. So if the potential remains invariant or unchanged, so that means phi dash should be equal to phi. So alpha by k equal to 1. So alpha equal to k. So what do we understand? The first thing is that for both constant field scaling and constant voltage scaling, we are going to have the dimensions the same scaling factor, because there is no alpha term itself. Okay, very good. Now comes the electric field. What are the various fields you will get? Any general field inside the device. It can be the lateral field or the vertical field. Units, volts per centimeter. Okay. What was the scaling factor? Alpha, which we have seen here. That is the basic premise of the generalized scaling theory. So if it is alpha, then under this constant field scaling factor, it is going to be 1 because alpha is equal to 1. And for constant voltage scaling factor, notice that alpha is equal to k. So this essentially becomes equal to k. Correct? Then comes the potential. What are the potentials? All the applied biases, VGS, VDS, VSB, surface potential phi s, okay, and so on. Just the potential. Unit is volts. What was the scaling factor? Alpha by k. Now, if it is constant field scaling, then alpha is equal to 1. Then it becomes 1 upon k. However, for constant voltage scaling, when alpha is equal to k, it is becoming 1. Okay. So now let us understand. Excuse me. So actually there are PhD proposals also going on. It is going to begin at 10:30. So what I shall do is I'll just shall I stop here for a moment, and then I will rejoin after. Okay, let me just continue. In another 1 or 2 minutes, I shall do it. So in my other computer, I mean, in my laptop, the proposals are going on. I'm in charge of the proposals also. Okay, so now what we understand is that this is basically 1. Now let us look into the situation here. What we are essentially looking at. What does this? What is the physical significance of it? Notice that when we are again going back to this, when we are essentially, I mean, in the olden days, when people or Intel basically thought about, going for the scaling. So the easiest approach, what they thought was essentially you can ground this, the source terminal, and what we shall do is we will simply keep VDS the same, VGS the same. So that means we are keeping it constant voltage scaling. Okay, the voltage is remaining the same. So as I told you, like this is the concept of the generalized scaling theory. So what I was emphasizing so much, there is a theory involved during scaling. It's not just that you are simply reducing the dimension. Your device will never work. So what we are essentially looking for is that device, definitely we will scale. Okay, give me a minute. Okay. Hello. Sorry for the couple of minutes delay. Okay, so now what we will be doing is, now notice, like when we are essentially downscaling, now the factor is this alpha by k and this. So notice, like if we simply reduce the dimension, keeping VDS the same, then from the mathematical models which we have developed, we will observe that the electric field under the constant voltage scaling. So what is the easier approach for us? The easiest thing to do is you simply don't bother about the terminal voltages. Remember, as a circuit designer, you don't bother about what is internally going on inside the device and all that. Okay, it will be much easier that, okay, excellent, we will keep the same power grid. We will simply replace the device from 1 micrometer with 10 nanometer. The potentials remaining the same. Excellent, right? We don't have to bother about the power supply anymore. Just imagine the benefits that we will be getting as a circuit designer. You don't have to bother about the power grid. You simply replace a 1 micrometer device with a 10 nanometer device, and we will be getting performance improvement. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen. That would be a very good thing to do, but it doesn't happen. Why? As you can see here, if we are scaling like that, so what happens is, for a constant voltage scaling, that means when the terminal voltages are remaining the same, that means in 180 nanometer node, we know that the VDD is 1.8 volt. In 7 nanometer node, it is 0.67 volt or say 0.7 volt. So 1.8 se leke 0.7 tak ja rahe hain. Like this reduction in voltage for the supply voltage, why are we doing it? It will be great, right? So you apply the same 1.8 volts and you get better performance. No, because your electric field here increases by the factor of k. So what is the value of k here? We know that x dash is equal to x by k. So x dash is 7 nanometer. This is 180 nanometer. And this is your k. So k will be equal to how much? Let's use a calculator here. 180 divided by 7. So it is around 25.7. Okay. So what we understand is that if we just use the same amount of potential, what will happen? This k will be increased by a factor of 25.7. So the electric field will increase by a factor of 25.7 with this k. It means that your device is essentially going to go into breakdown. When avalanching can happen, the device breakdown. So the reliability of the device will be at stake. Okay, and that is the reason why we cannot apply the same electric field when we are going for the downscaling of the device. So the approach that you have to always take, in fact, industry takes that, is that instead of putting the voltages, the terminal potentials the same, what people will be looking for is try to keep the field the same. So basically, the scaling factor which we are writing at this column of this table is essentially coming from the generalized scaling theory, generalized, okay, with these two premises. But later on, which of these, how do you apply it in practice, is basically given by either you keep alpha equal to 1 or alpha equal to k. So it turns out, from the reliability perspective, the constant voltage scaling will turn it unreliable. On the other hand, if we keep the constant voltage scaling, called constant field scaling, then what we observe is that the potential will scale by 1 by k. Remember, k is a factor, k value is greater than 1. So this is going to be less. So what it means is your power consumption will reduce. Think about it. So that means one price you have to pay. That means you have to reduce you have to basically redesign your power supply itself. But apart from that, if you can somehow do it, then we understand is that we understand that the potentials, the power grid, VDS, VGS, all these values will also reduce. So that means the total power consumption from the power supply will reduce because of it. So that means constant field scaling is something which we will prefer. Okay. Now, let's talk about the doping concentration. What was the doping concentration scaling factor? Alpha K. Correct? यहाँ पे alpha K लिख देते हैं. This doping concentration per centimeter cube as usual. Okay. Now, for constant field scaling, alpha is equal to 1. So this is K. However, for constant voltage scaling, क्या होगा? K square. So clearly you can understand that if you are going by constant voltage scaling, you have to dope very, very much aggressively. Okay, in order to maintain the same electrostatics inside the device. All right, capacitance per unit area. K into Cox. So the factor was K. So clearly, capacitance per unit area. Capacitance per unit area का unit क्या होगा? Simple, farad per centimeter square. Okay. Okay. What are the various quantities which will essentially have this units? Typically COX. Okay. C depth, depletion. Okay, I have to deal with the depletion also. C depth and let us say C inversion. These quantities. This is simply scaling by K as we saw it here. K into Cox. So again, it remains K, whether it is constant field scaling or constant voltage scaling. Okay. Now comes, okay, let us look into the depletion part. Notice that the depletion formula was given like that. Okay. So there is root over twice epsilon Si, the built-in potential, that is the surface potential here, phi s dash. Surface potential is a scalable quantity divided by QNA. Na is a scalable quantity. So it becomes phi s by Na. Phi s scales as, remember, it's a potential, so alpha by K, and Na scales as alpha K. Correct? So alpha alpha cancels, you are left with this. Therefore, what do we understand here? Something very interesting. This is not a dimension which we usually look into, like it's not a channel length or the width which you have a control over, but still what we observe is even the depletion width scales by the factor of 1 upon K. Okay? So what we shall do here is, here we shall put W dep as well. Depletion width. So C dep is also will be scaling as K. All right. Now comes the terminal or absolute capacitance. Where is the absolute capacitance? Here. This is 1 upon K. So I'll again put here 1 upon K. Unit is simply farad. This is 1 upon K. This is 1 upon K. Okay. Inversion carrier density. Look at this. Inversion carrier density is this alpha into K. Correct? Just like the doping concentration. So if it is alpha into K, I'll again put, remember, the unit is again per centimeter cube. So this becomes K, this becomes K square. Inversion charge density. So inversion charge density is here root over alpha K. Correct? What is the unit for this? Again, charge density. So per centimeter square here, root over alpha K. Okay. Now, this is alpha is equal to 1. So root over K. And this becomes just K. Okay. Then finally, the carrier drift velocity. Drift velocity obviously centimeters per second. For long channel MOS transistors, so here, we are essentially having a slight variation in the sense, like henceforth, like in the next class, we will again look into it. We are going to enter into the long, let me say nanoscale devices or nanoscale circuits. The other one is going to be, let us say, long channel. Okay? If it is a nanoscale, then the VDR does not scale in the nanometer scale MOSFETs. Okay? So what does it mean? That if the MOSFET is in the deep submicron region, so 45 nanometers and below, in those cases, it will be gradually entering into the ballistic regime. In the next class, we will look into that. Then what we understand is that the VDR becomes equal to VDR SAT. So that means it does not scale at all. So the scaling factor for that will be 1. Whereas if it is for a long channel MOS transistor, so that means when you are scaling from 180 nanometer to, let us say, 130 nanometer. Okay. So scaling doesn't always mean that you are dealing with 10 nanometers only. When we are in the large device, long channel device, there also you will be getting scaling. Correct. So when you are scaling from 250 nanometer to 180 nanometer technology node, okay, then you are going to have this alpha into VDR. So the scaling factor is alpha. Okay. So when you are having in the constant field scaling, what do you understand here is that in either case, look, this is again an advantage. For the long channel device, or even in the nanoscale short channel device, you are always going to have alpha is equal to 1. So this is 1. Whereas in case of constant voltage scaling, you are going to have either for the long channel device, it is going to be K. In the short channel, it is going to be 1. If it is short channel means nanoscale, if you are applying constant voltage scaling, either alpha is equal to K, or for nanoscale, it will be 1. So ये वाला समझो इस बात को. So that means under constant voltage scaling, so you are doing a constant voltage scaling from, say, 350 nanometer to 250 nanometer. This nanoscale means you are scaling from 14 nanometer to 7 nanometer. Do you see the difference? Okay. So 350 nanometer से मान लो 180 nanometer तक जा रहे हैं. So 350 to 180 is like half. Here also you are doing a factor of half. So that means here also K is equal to 2. Okay, here also K is equal to 2. Okay, so that means X dash, the channel length, let us say channel length, is equal to L by 2. That means here 350 tha, it should be 360, but anyways, 360 to 180. This should be L dash is equal to again L by 2. 14 se lekar 7. So what is the value of K? Remember L by K, right? Go back. L by K. So this K factor becomes equal to 2. Okay. So in both the cases, K is equal to 2. The scaling factor remains the same, but the range of scaling are different. One you are scaling from 14 to 7. The other one is you are scaling from 350 to 180. So if it is a long channel MOSFET scaling, it is alpha, the scaling factor of the drift velocity. Whereas if you are scaling in the very small ultra scale devices, it will be 1. So if you are, so basically the theory becomes bifurcated. I mean, it will become different if you are trying to do it for a constant voltage scaling. Whereas the benefits are, if you are dealing with the constant field scaling, as we have already seen, that the advantage, this is great, this is good, the potential is reduced. Then the electric field remains the same, so the reliability remains intact in the scale devices. The doping concentration, if you are doing constant voltage scaling, what will happen? The doping concentration will be increasing as a square of the scaling factor. So this is good. The capacitance per unit area, I mean, it doesn't matter. Let me not put a circle here. Okay. So I'm just mentioning which is the better of the two. Inversion carrier density. Of course, K square is better. We would like to have more carriers. Okay. This is actually better for the constant voltage scaling. For the inversion charge density, again, this is supposed to be better. However, for the carrier drift velocity, this is better. You can always say that, okay, I'll be using long channel device, and then we will get a benefit of multiplying it by K. But the thing is that a long channel, it's not going to help you in any way. Correct? So in the nanoscale technologies, it is always better to, I mean, if you're keeping a long channel, it simply defeats the purpose of scaling itself, right? So we will always go by the nanoscale technology node. So that will be 1. So what you will notice, out of these 9 different parameters which we have checked today, the constant field scaling is beneficial from the device performance or device reliability perspectives. In the next lecture, okay, what we will do is we are essentially going to look into the circuit parameters, how the generalized scaling theory start affecting the circuit parameters as well. Okay. Yes, question.
Hello?
Yeah. Hello?
Sir.
Yes.
I mean, is that K equal to 2 every time, or
No,
the
no,
value
no.
of K?
No. Here, it's coming from here, no? Look. L dash is equal to L by K. So L dash is a scale device, L is the unscaled device. So if you are putting 7 nanometer and the original device is 14 nanometer, then K is equal to 2. Suppose you are scaling from 14 nanometer to 10 nanometer technology node, then it will become how much? 1.4. Okay. Similarly, its K value will essentially depend on how much you are able to scale your devices. In our next semester, in the advanced VLSI design projects, we are going to look into the situation where we will be dealing with circuits. And then in that circuit, we are going to apply the scaling theory and find out the circuit performance or how to do the device sizing, transistor sizing, such that you achieve this kind of, you achieve better performance as well as the better power reduction from the circuit perspective.
And sir, I mean, seeing the trends, every time K is nearly equal to 2, is there any reason?
No. Where? I have...
Yes, sir.
No. For example, here I have chosen like that. For example, as I said, if it is like 14 to 10 nanometers, it is going to be 1.4. The reason I chose 14 to 7 so that you can get 2 here, you can get 2 here. For example, instead of 350, I could have also chosen, let us say, 250 nanometer. Then K will be how much? Let us say 35 by 25. You do the calculation. That's definitely less than 2. Okay. So I'm just telling you, like, if you plan, for example, scaling is done at the very beginning of your circuit designs. So scaling is something which is beneficial, but the only thing we have to keep in mind is how to ensure that scaling is not going to deteriorate your circuit performance. Okay, so just to keep that in mind, what we do is, if we are planning to do the circuit designs at a particular technology node, then you have to also ensure this value of K and accordingly how it is changing. So K is not essentially related to 2. That was just an example. Okay, K can be anything. That, for example, you already have a circuit at 180 nanometer. In the next semester, projects are essentially based on that. You will find a circuit in a particular technology node, say 180 nanometer technology node. Now I will ask you to design it in 45 nanometers. So 180 to 45. So 180 by 45 is how much? 4. So that means in that case, K will be equal to 4. So that means you are reducing the circuit device dimensions by 4 times. Then if you try to make the circuits, you will notice that your doping concentration and everything will get screwed up. So accordingly, you will have to change those dimensions and those device properties, material properties, not material, device properties, which will essentially lead you to better circuit performance. Okay, so this is the thing. So if you have a circuit at 180, in industry, you have been asked that you have to use, okay, 180 is very, very old. You have to do it in, let us say, 7 nanometer. Then this K factor is very much higher. And in that case, you can understand the doping concentrations and everything will be simply haywire, right? They are very, very high. Okay, so it might happen if you do K square for the 7 nanometers, it might essentially reach into polysilicon and all that level, okay, which you cannot afford. Okay, great. That's all for today. In the next class, we will go for the circuit parameters. These are where all the device parameters will go for the circuit parameters. Okay, thank you.